I think that's what's at stake, is this deep uncertainty and letting this villain survive, which is, am I enough? Am I doing it enough? Is this the right things to do? Like, is this sufficient? Like, that villain loves to keep like you distracted, you know?
Hi, Storymakers. I'm Max Kringen, and this is Tell the Podcast, where we get to know the humans behind the campaigns, the brands, and the causes that actually move people to action. Every week, I sit down with mission-driven leaders, fundraisers, storytellers, and the people on the ground actually making it happen. We talk about what worked, what flopped, and the moments that changed the way they think about fundraising, storytelling, and inviting people into a story. If you're in the middle of it, building trust, raising money, trying to tell a story that matters, you're in the right place. Now, let's get into this week's Tell All the Podcast.
Over the rainbow.
Noah Barnett, welcome to Tell All the Podcast.
Thanks, Max. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited to get into whatever we're going to get into.
I am too. As you know, I'm such a big fan of DonorDock. I'm a big fan of Matt and Rob, but I haven't really gotten to meet you yet. And you're going to be one of the speakers at WellTold, the nonprofit storytelling conference coming up April 30th in Fargo and virtually live online across the world and all that jazz. So, and you don't live in Fargo, right?
I do not. No, I live down in a warmer place, Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh, much warmer. Well, that's where all of our old people go. And so say hi to them.
I think that's why there's still a direct flight from Fargo to Phoenix. It's not even from Fargo to Phoenix. It's Fargo to Mesa, Arizona.
Very specific.
Yeah.
And it's to get them all to their warmer climate as quickly as possible. And I don't blame them. No, before we get into questions, can you give us kind of a super high level overview of who the heck is Noah?
Yeah, sure. Well, for one, I am a builder, first and foremost. I'm a conversationalist. But more than that, I've just been working in and around nonprofits for my whole career. Started at kind of this like intersection of marketing and mission, and was fascinated by the ability to use marketing, which I thought was magic, to be able to basically convince people to do things that were crazy and wild. And I was like, well, if that's true, how could we use this magic to help people make good decisions for the world and for their community? And so worked in international relief and development for almost 7 years, then did consulting for nonprofits, worked inside a few different consultancies that even helped organizations outside of nonprofits, but found my way back to really loving this idea of helping organizations think about how they can grow in effective ways. And for the last 10 years, I found my home inside of technology companies, helping to educate nonprofits on how they can use technology to scale their growth.
Wow. That's a lot in a very efficient package.
And we didn't even talk about all the fun stuff, like how I run a strategic card game team called Purple Shadow Gaming on the side.
Okay. I actually would love to know like the 30 seconds
I have 3
about
boys
that.
and 2 dogs.
I was
all
gonna
the
say,
fun stuff, right? I gave you the professional
say,
story,
yeah.
right? And isn't that funny? We have like these like various like identities and starting points that we use where we like, okay, I'm on this podcast, we're talking to nonprofits or nonprofit people. And so I'm going to angle in that way. But I could be on a different podcast and be like, I run a team called Purple Shadow Gaming, you know, and they're like, that's amazing. And I'm like, oh, I also help nonprofit technology companies. They're like, we don't care, you know, type thing. So, yeah.
Well, here's a shared understanding on Tell the Podcast. We care about Noah as the whole person, not just the individual sides of you, even though most of what we'll talk about today is probably related to the nonprofit work that you've been doing. I'm curious, between the gaming strategy group to the companies that you've started, to the companies that you've supported with, to all of the nonprofits that you support, what's the one thing that connects it all for you? Like, is there a through line through all of these different roles?
Yeah, there's 2 things. One is I've always been in strategic centric roles where the solution or kind of the path forward is relatively like undefined. So that's the first and foremost thing. And I think that's like a capability that I bring to a lot of teams and why people bring me in. And then at a certain point in time, it's good for me to go on to the next project. I've built really a tapestry of projects, and I'm very proud of that. I think others find careers inside one project. I love the tapestry and kind of the opportunity that provides for me to really express what I'm great at first and foremost. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing is I have this like kind of statement, I guess, that really came out of when I started a co-working space, but I've kind of adopted it for my own kind of like ethos because I think it summarizes what I love and the why I choose the projects I choose. And it's that I really like spending my time building community, fostering conversations, and sparking collisions amongst like net positive people. And I think whether it's hosting a community of, building a community around the card game and like organizing people that otherwise maybe wouldn't be a part of a team and helping to be a catalyst in that way, to like hosting my own podcast or being a part of what I'm doing here at DonorDock. Like it's all part of this idea of like fostering conversations and like sparking collisions amongst the right type of people, or even the ideas that are going to produce net positive. Like this is a big thing. You know how like people always ask like, what do you want for your kids? And someone summarized it. I'm not even going to take credit for this, but they're like, I want them to be more than +1 on the world. And as a math-minded person that works a lot in like equations where I'm trying to figure out what variables I can, like motivate to go in the right direction to amplify the outcome, that idea of being more than a +1 on the world as like the ultimate goal in humanity is like pretty fantastic, especially considering I think a lot of individuals kind of find themselves in a 0 to 1 or even potentially like a negative part of that equation. And so that's what I like doing.
Wow. I love that. And I feel like there's a lot to pull apart in there. And yeah, I want to get into maybe a little bit of an appetizer as to what people can expect from Noah at our storytelling conference, WellTold. And so I want to get into this a little bit. And I think it's interesting to hear kind of the scope and like how many different things you're involved with, because what you're going to be talking about as much as anything is focus, right? The idea that the problem in front of us isn't really like effort or the number of things that we're doing, but it's more around clarity. And so I think lots of us in leadership positions have tried to read books on these things, and we have a project management tool and we have all those things. But I'm curious, that idea of focus, where did that actually come from for you? And was there a moment like where you were in the weeds and you went like, this is a real issue, not just for me, but also for our nonprofit brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I think it goes back to like a very deep belief that I'm trying to fight against. Like the enemy is real, both in my personal life and I think even in the businesses and the projects, is that like, am I enough? And I think what's hard with that is I think that depending on how we approach that is why we find ourselves in cycles of I must do more, or I have to make more, or I have to be more. And I think in companies too, like, is this enough? And I think this like tension with enough that probably runs like very deep and is probably for another podcast, but also like companies and you listening to this podcast, maybe even feeling like when I use the word enough, like it has a lot of weight to it. And so I think often why things feel so hard, or why we continue to adopt other people's versions of what we should be doing, is because we're all kind of pursuing this idea of like, is this enough? Am I enough? How are we navigating that? And so I think that is a tension I personally have, but then I've seen it expressed in all of the companies I've worked on. Like, are we raising enough in the nonprofit I was doing? Are we following up enough? Are we, hey, we're helping these kids, but we're not helping these kids. Is that enough? Like, is this fair? And then you go into companies and you're like, hey, are we growing at enough of a pace? Are we serving our customers in the right? Are we actually better than that guy over there or that platform over there? Like, am I doing enough in this team? like this conversation of enough and the tension it brings, I think is like extremely significant across a lot of vectors of our lives. And I think what I've just tried to settle on is that our only way to combat this villain is to shift gears and find its kryptonite, which is if I only focus on what matters most, that is enough. And so then the real question becomes is what matters most? And in the context of the conversation that we're having with nonprofits and what I'm going to be sharing at WellTold is enough can only be defined against what you are actually trying to accomplish as an organization in any given time period. And why fundraising feels so hard is we adopt shoulds from the outside world. Like people are coming to a conference, they're going to leave. And I know it's not the hope, but someone's going to leave with a list of things. We should do this. We should do this. Hey, Beth, we should do this. We should, I knew we should be doing this. Right. And it's like, there's a lot of things you should be doing or could be doing, et cetera. But again, it doesn't matter unless it matters to the priorities and goals of your organization. And so basically flipping it and saying, am I enough defined by, am I doing enough, which is an action-based starting point. Like, is this enough? Is this, et cetera. I actually flip it back and say, what matters most? And so if we can orient our clarity process, which I'm going to walk through, around what are we actually trying to do? Like, what is our mission right now? Okay, here's our mission. Okay, within our team, let's say I'm on a development team, what is our strategy for accomplishing that mission within the context of our job? Like if I'm trying to, like maybe it is, hey, I need to cultivate a thriving community of donors to be able to change the community of Fargo or to, provide in the gaps where, public services are falling short in A, B, and C community, or standing up for this policy change that no one else seems to care about. Like that's the mission, but it's like strategically, what are we actually doing as a contribution? It's like, what variable in the algebra equation am I actually like a part of, right? Once I have clarity there, now I can say, okay, within this time period, what are the 3 things I can do? Not more, 3, to actually make a net positive impact on the strategic objective. Then how am I going to know whether the needle moved or not? Like what are the targets? And then ultimately, what are the things we could also do that would move the needle, but we are choosing to omit from our plan, which is the step most people skip. It's the step I skip, which is like, if we leave room for things to keep coming in, because it's like, oh, this is in service of our mission. Hey, this would help us acquire new donors. You know what? We probably should do that campaign again because, we said donor retention's a priority. And it's like, great, all good ideas shouldn't be worked on. So we put that in our missions list and we save it for the next time we run this process, right? And so I'm going to walk through kind of that framework. But again, it has to orient back to this question of what is actually important and what matters most. And I'm going to only work on the things that matter most right now. And I'm going to work diligently, which is very hard, to not be sucked back into the shoulds.
Again, there is so much there. And I think what's percolating for me right now is we're talking to a couple of different folks who are just starting strategic planning, their strategic planning process. And I will tell you, as I consider myself a strategist, I like my first big kid job was with some of the most brilliant like marketing and communication strategists. And so I learned a lot. And the idea of strategic planning to me is so backwards. It almost feels like a 4-letter word because I'm like, there are actually 2 things, right? There's strategy, and then there's a plan on how you get there. And those 2 things, they can coexist, they should coexist, but they should exist separately. And I think I am really excited to take that idea of omissions and infuse it into that, to not just say, here's what we want to do, here's what we're going to do, but here's actively what we're not going to do. I even think about that in the TEWA landscape, because we're having lots of conversations about what does the future hold for us, but we're not doing as much about what should we not be doing as well. And that idea of omissions doesn't feel like a cut stuff, right? It doesn't feel like hey, let's just cut this thing. It feels really purposeful. And when you give it purpose, it gives it, I think, a little bit more meaning. Can you walk us through just like high level, what does figuring out your omissions maybe like look like? Maybe more as an appetizer, because I know we're going to dig into the framework at the event, but I'm curious what that looks like from like just an everyday, because you're a strategist every day, and so
Yeah.
you're actively doing that.
Yeah, I think it's giving space. So first and foremost, when you're going through this process, is there you're going to get to where it's like, okay, you have your mission, your strategy, which are usually pretty concrete and straightforward and unique to your organization. Then you're going to get into like, what are the things that are actually feasible from a priority standpoint we need to work on to be able to get to this, like to be able to deliver on this strategy in service of these targets. There's going to be more ideas than possible for you to be able to vet and prioritize and do all these different things. Like, then you're going to be able to do. And so what it's allowing you to do is actually let that happen. Like, let yourself go wide and collect and be a collector and get feedback from others, and maybe look externally and say, well, I've seen a lot of other organizations doing A, B, and C. Maybe it's attending great events like Tellwell to get like great ideas, right? But we're not then putting that on our should list and leaving it here.
Yeah.
Because then it's like unresolved tension. It's like, well, I should be doing this, or I should try this, or I should do this. By moving something simply from a should list to a I've decided to not do this right now, even though it's a good idea, is such like a recapture of agency that like instantly stress can go away. There's a great video from like the early days of Jeff Bezos where he said most stress is caused by indecision on something you actually have the power to make decision on. Where it's like, I'm stressed not because I'm working hard or I'm like digging in and I'm 996 or whatever, like whatever the thing is, like it doesn't really matter. It's not about that. It's about delaying decision on something that you could begin or make decision on is actually what infuses a lot of stress. And I just saw that quote again today, or that kind of clip today. I was like, that's so true. Like even in my life right now, I'm thinking about some like things that's like, wow, I just need to go resolve this or take the first step, right? Like, make the phone call, send the email, kick off the project and be like, hey, like this is just something that's been outstanding for us that we just haven't even like really kicked around, like tabling it, whatever that means. Let's just get started. Like I'm going to start a thread. Here's some ideas. Like, let's move forward, right? Like it's taking that first step on things that you have the power to take steps. You holding back creates cognitive dissonance, which then creates stress. And I feel like it's similar to here. It's like there's a lot to do. I need to move some of these shoulds to I've purposely chosen to omit this from our plan for now.
So here's the internal battle when I hear this. I have activator in my strengths. And so I am wildly good at starting so many things or getting people really excited about doing the things, but then so quickly I'm like, okay, great. See you later. Right. And so that idea of like coming to decisions more quickly, coming to decisions more efficiently, is really fascinating. And like, just like, because my gut says, come to the decision quickly and then start it quickly. But I think one of the beautiful things about this idea of omissions is not just like start it by default, but actively like go through and figure out, is this something that is going to move the needle forward on this? And then make the decision quickly, right? Like it's binary. It can be yes or no. It can be a 1 or a 0.
Yeah. I think that's like the goal of all of this is to basically push against this considered feeling, continual feeling that we're not enough. We're not doing enough. Our team's not, we could be doing so much more. And it's like, no, now what we're going to do is we're going to focus on what we've chosen to do. And we have rationale behind that. Again, we could be wrong, right? And we might find out at the end of 2 weeks that what we did didn't actually move the needle, but we at least will know we're wrong then. Because we worked on said things to target these things and it didn't change, How
do you help organizations or when you're having these conversations with organizations, how do you help them navigate through when it's never going to be enough, right? Like we have some big problems in the world. We have some big issues facing some of the nonprofits that we work with, right? We have addiction, and we have sickness, and we have cancer, and we have all of these like big issues, and recognizing and knowing it will never be enough. How do you help kind of guide people through the mindset of that?
Yeah. I think like at a macro level, it may never be enough, right? It might be like, this is going to be a problem that we are going to fight against. I think part of me is like, if it's never going to be enough and it's endless, like that feels like you're kind of already in like a hopeless spiral of like, we're doomed regardless. So why even try? That's my response to what you were saying, Max, was instantly like, why would I ever play that game? That game sounds miserable. And not because I'm trying to say people shouldn't work on really hard problems. But I feel like there has to be some belief that like what we're doing is going to move the needle on this, even if like in macro view, like I can't change this issue completely, but I've chosen to at least take a stab. And I think this is more relevant for like founders or other leaders that are leading organizations that get to choose what portion of the work to go work on at the like mission level. You know, it might not be, hey, we need to solve this unsolvable problem. It could be, but there is a portion of that that we've decided that we are going to tackle. And then there's a strategy, which again, maybe is where the gap is, because strategic planning is planning strategically, not actually strategy. Like it's being thoughtful about planning, which is ironic. It should just be called planning, you know, type thing. But I think first and foremost, like there has to be some hope that like we're working on something that matters and we're moving the needle. And then the definition of what that means. It might be, hey, we are trying to get to capacity every day to serve the people we can in our facilities. And to do that, the development team needs to raise $1.2 million every year to be able to facilitate that. And to accomplish that, that's going to take a concert of people that are committed to coming together to work on this cause together. And so, yes, we need dollars, but we also need individual people to be motivated about this. Okay, great. Now let's get to work on that side of it in the best way we know possible to move forward. Like you're never going to have absolute certainty that what you're going to do is going to make the impact that you hope for. And so for me, I'm like, well, you might as well get started then.
Amen. Just get started. I love that. And I think like there's something underneath all of this that feels that this framework is built for humans. That's the whole point in getting focused, right? So that way you can actually be present with your advocates, with your donors. When you go home, you can actually be present with your family and your friends, right?
Absolutely.
Versus just, you know, it's not just a conversation about efficiency. So I'm curious, can you talk about that a little bit? Like, what do you think we as like fundraisers, nonprofit executives lose when we're so scattered, right? Not necessarily in terms of metrics, but like what actually happens between people?
Yeah, I think we talk a lot about this at DonorDock actually, and there was kind of this, we'll say story that I think we repeat often internally, and that we are a technology platform that are helping organizations drive efficiency, effectiveness, maybe raise more money, et cetera. Like there's all these big promises we could make because they're true. Like there's real evidence of that. But at the end of the day, what is something that's very concrete that we can rally upon? And the thing that we came back to in one meeting we had last year was if we can help our users every day put their head on their pillow or lay down at night and be like, I got done today something that mattered and was able to move the needle. Like if I can just go to sleep at night and know that like if our customers can go to sleep at night and know that like we help them focus on something that mattered within their organization today so that they now have the confidence to say they did something that mattered today, whether it was calling one donor or sending that email campaign out finally because they were able to segment their data better. The reason I tell this story is like, I think that's what's at stake is this deep uncertainty and letting this villain survive, which is, am I enough? Am I doing it enough? Is this the right things to do? Like, is this sufficient? Like that villain loves to keep like you distracted, you know? And I think that's a villain we've chosen to tackle because I think so much of culture, like cultural conversations is do more with less. Even AI is oriented around like, oh, it's going to help us do so much more. Hey, you could get a bigger goal, or hey, you could do this, or you could do that, or you could run you could do 3 jobs now of, with just one person. And it's like all oriented around this idea of more. Like, what more can we do? What more can I get? What more can we do? And it's like, I think more is like the tool that this villain uses to keep us captivated.
Hmm.
And if we just agree that, like, I did what mattered today, or I did, even mattered most is probably even like a little bit heavy, but it's like, I did something that mattered today. How do you know that? Well, it moved our targets forward today. And like, that's sufficient, because one of our goals is to make a donor smile. And I called them and I could feel their smile through the phone. Like, that's what we're doing here, and that mattered. And now I can go to sleep and do it again tomorrow. And now I can feel confident about what I'm doing. So I think that's what's at stake, is like, the alternative is, you know, the villain wins. And as storytellers, no one wants the villain to win.
We can't let the villain win. We
Yeah.
need people to know that they are enough. So, Noah, we're coming to the end of our time together today. I'm so excited for you to be on stage, though, because I'm sure we're going to hear a couple of more stories. But as you may know, on Tell the podcast, we believe stories shape who we are. And so I'm curious if you have a story from your life or your work that still influences or guides how you show up today.
Yeah. I was in Eastern Europe. I was 15, and we were visiting various communities that would be, I think at the time, I don't know what they're referred to today, but they were kind of mobile communities, right? Like more of a kind of like a gypsy-ish vibe, and of like traveling and moving around. So they were very mobile communities of people, and we were visiting them and spending time with them and doing all of these things. And again, like, we're these people from the West that just like come in and, are just like here all of a sudden and then leaving. And it's like, well, we're trying to like orient ourselves with these individuals and like meet these people, etc. And we ended up spending kind of the whole afternoon with them, sharing meals, sharing community. And a lot of the kids like walked back out of this like kind of mud hill to get back to where our bus was, because we had a bus parked at the top of the hill, and we had to kind of like come down this hill, to where this community had settled. And all the kids from the community, or like a lot of them, were kind of coming up this hill with us. And, like, they're barefoot, they're just kind of living their wildest lives, which was amazing. And like almost encouraging for me to be like, man, like I want to live like a little bit more wild in my life. But one of the girls on our trip was carrying one of the younger children, and the girl's foot rubbed up against the lady's clothes basically, and left a footprint. And all of the children, literally all of the children, came over and tried to clean her off. And we were like, stop, you don't need to, we're good. Like, we're good. You don't have to do that. But they were trying to give of their service to be like, oh no, you deserve to be clean, or something like this. And like, it was one of the first times I think, like, in a moment, felt this like very strong disparity of like, oh, there's people that are enough, and then there's the other people, and there's different things. And I think we continue to see that in our world even more so today, where there's like this continued try to like attempt to establish a hierarchy of like, this deserves this, or these people don't deserve this, and this and that and the other. And like, this one moment like sparked in me, like, I want to work on this challenge of like driving equality, and like helping to help people, help all types of people in whatever cases it is like much as I could, because I was like, this is not like the world I want to live in, or the world I at least want to leave. And so I think that's motivated a lot of my work. And I think there's many stories that have happened since then. But like, that was one of the defining moments, like, early childhood memories where you're just like, wow, like, I will never have like a before that happened mindset. Everything is going forward from that moment.
That's incredible. And like,
I
almost
don't think I've shared
feels
that story in a really long time. You said story, and I was thinking of another one, and then I started talking, and I just shared that story instead.
that's incredible pivot. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And I think it like, when you kind of reverse engineer, not that I'm reverse engineering like your trajectory to how we got here, it is a really beautiful through line to say like, what does enough look like? And how do we empower folks to feel and believe that? when maybe we jump back to that idea that like there are really big problems in the world, and we have the ability to make progress towards them,
Mhm.
recognizing like we might be a small part in the history of that thing. So
Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful story. I'm really excited for lots more folks to
Yeah.
meet you and to hopefully hear some more stories, which brings us to our last question. What's one simple good thing that you would leave our audience with? This can be a piece of wisdom or a reminder that helps people lead with purpose.
You're enough. And each day we're just in a reflection of that enoughness. And we get to choose, what we do with that. It's not earned, it's just true.
Mm. Amen. Double tap, retweet, whatever the kids say these days. Noah Barnett, if folks want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
If you want to get in touch with me directly, if you go to withnoah.com, you can book a virtual walk with me. I love going on walks with individuals. I think there's such power in walking side by side with someone, even if it's just on the phone. But there's something about this, like being in movement with other and like having a conversation. Like this is great, right? But we're very static. Like we should do it next time where we're like walking on the podcast, type thing. But yeah, if you go to withnoah.com, you can book a walk with me if you want to go for a walk and have a conversation. Or the best way to find me and would be on LinkedIn. It's the only network I kind of retain. And so if you just search Noah Barnett, you'll see my name with a lightning bolt next to it. And that's me.
Cool. Well, Noah Barnett, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for everything that you're doing with the DonorDock team to empower so
fun.
many of
Yeah.
our incredible listeners. Thanks in advance for coming and getting excited for WellTold. We are so dang excited to have you there. And if you are out there listening and you are excited about WellTold, let us know. And if you haven't registered yet, you can use Friend of DonorDock for an additional 20% off, and that's at WellToldConference.com. Noah Barnett, thanks for joining us on Tell the Podcast. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for letting people know that they're enough.
Yeah, thanks, Max. Thanks to the Tellwell team. And I love when someone like you and the team creates space for people to just share their stories. And I can't wait to be a part of the conference next month.
It's an honor. Thanks, Noah.
Thanks, Max.
Thanks for spending some time with us today. I hope this conversation gave you something useful to take back to your work. If you're looking for more resources on storytelling, strategy, and building communications that actually move people to action, head on over to WeTellWell.com. We've got guides, case stories, and plenty of ways to dig deeper. And if you're at a point where you're ready to get serious about clarifying your message or telling your story in a bigger way, let's talk. You can book a planning call with our team right on the website. We'd love to hear what you're working on. One last thing. If this episode was helpful, share it with someone on your team or leave us a review. It really does help other mission-driven folks find the show. I'm Max Kringen. Thanks for listening to Tell Well the Podcast. Now go tell your story well, because a well-told story can move your mission forward and change the world.